I was in a relationship with this guy, Ethan. It was my first truly significant romance, the kind where you start envisioning a shared future, introducing each other to family, the whole deal. I was utterly smitten with him, convinced he felt just as strongly about me. Ethan had this obsession with Las Vegas. It was his go-to topic whenever we discussed travel or weekend getaways. He'd endlessly scroll through Instagram, fawning over posts of luxurious hotels and high-end restaurants, raving about how epic a proper Vegas trip would be. His birthday was approaching in March, and I wanted to make it unforgettable. This was our first major milestone as a couple, and I was thrilled to show him how much he meant to me. I spent weeks meticulously planning an extravagant Vegas weekend, pulling out all the stops to make it flawless. I reserved a room at the Bellagio with a view of the iconic fountains because he'd once mentioned how awesome that would be. I secured a table at the upscale steakhouse he'd been raving about for months, the one with a fancy dry-aged beef and an extensive wine menu. The piece de resistance? A helicopter ride over the Strip, his ultimate fantasy. He'd brought it up countless times, gushing about how incredible it would be to see Vegas from above. It cost $800 for the two of us, but I knew his reaction would make it worth every penny. All in, the weekend set me back $3,000, including flights, the hotel, dining, and activities. I'd been saving up for my well-paying job, and I wanted to pamper the man I love for his special day. It felt like what people in committed relationships do for each other. When we checked in on Friday night, Ethan went wild, snapping photos of our room and posting them all over his Instagram stories. The fountain view, the lavish bathroom, the bottle of champagne I'd arranged for us. He kept saying this was a life, marveling at how perfect everything was. At dinner, he ordered the priciest steak on the menu, without a glance at the cost, paired with 2 bottles of wine. He filmed himself slicing into this massive cut, sharing it across social media with the restaurant's location tagged. Seeing him so thrilled made me happy. I was just glad he was having the time of his life. Saturday morning came, and the helicopter tour had Ethan acting like a kid on Christmas. He spent the entire 20-minute flight recording himself with the Vegas skyline in the background, so caught up in getting the perfect shot that the pilot had to remind him twice to keep his seatbelt on. Here's the red flag I missed because I was too swept up in love to see it. Not once did he mention me in any of his posts from the entire weekend. No tags, no acknowledgement, like I wasn't even there. I brushed it off, telling myself he just wanted to keep our relationship low-key. Saturday night, we hit the casino, and that's when things took a strange turn. Ethan burned through $400 at blackjack in no time and kept asking me for more money. I handed over another $200, thinking it was his birthday weekend and he should enjoy himself. Then he started buying drinks for random strangers at the bar, using my credit card. When I suggested we head back to the room to spend some quality time together, he snapped at me, accusing me of being controlling for wanting to be with my boyfriend on the trip I'd planned and paid for. The real disaster unfolded on Sunday night. We met up with his college buddies at a downtown bar for a roast to celebrate his friend Caleb's upcoming wedding. They'd rented out a back room and set up a mic for people to take turns poking fun at Caleb. At first, it was lighthearted, jokes about Caleb's awful college haircuts and his constant texting with his fiancée. Typical friend group banner. Everyone was laughing, and Caleb was taking it in stride. The vibe was great. Then Ethan grabbed the mic. What happened next is seared into my memory forever. "Hold on, I've got something to say about desperate women," he declared, staring right at me. "This desperate chick thinks throwing money at me makes her special. Fake helicopter rides and overpriced meat? She treats me like her little lapdog." The room exploded with laughter. His friend Marcus was filming it all on his phone. I sat there frozen, feeling like I might be sick. Ethan pulled the helicopter tour tickets from his wallet and waved them around like they were some kind of prize. Helicopter passes? Like I'm some basic tourist. My ex took me on private jets to real places, not some tacky tourist trap for people with more cash than sense. The laughter grew louder. His buddy Jake stood up, raising his beer in a mock toast. "Man, just ditch her already." Then Ethan delivered a line that still haunts me. After she foots the bill for Marcus's bachelor party next month, why get rid of a good ATM? An ATM? These guys were treating me like a punchline, some sad woman who throws money at men to buy their affection. My boyfriend, the man I'd just spent $3,000 celebrating, was leading the charge. I stood up, walked to where Ethan was standing, and took the mic from his hands. "You're right about one thing," I said, staring him down. "Dogs are loyal. You're more like a leech, groveling when the host cuts you off." I placed the mic on the nearest table and walked out of that bar with every shred of dignity I could muster. Ethan chased me to the parking lot, suddenly sober and tripping over apologies. But I was done. I got in my car and drove home alone. He took an Uber back to his place. Monday morning, he texted me asking if I was still upset, like I was blowing some minor spat out of proportion. Tuesday, he called twice. I didn't pick up. Wednesday, he showed up at my workplace with cheap grocery store flowers and a gas station coffee. Tried to say sorry. I told security I didn't want to see him. By Hawkins, he was leaving voicemails, each one more pitiful than the last. Claiming he was drunk, his friends egg him on, and he didn't mean any of it. He swore he'd pay me back for Vegas and take me somewhere nice to make it right. The messages grew longer and more desperate daily. 2 weeks later, he was still calling, leaving a voicemail about Marcus's bachelor party, mentioning deposits had been made based on my supposed agreement to cover costs. I'd never agreed to fund anyone's bachelor party, but Ethan had apparently told his friends I would. 3 weeks after Vegas, he showed up at my apartment building at 11 p.m. on a Thursday. My security guard called to ask if I wanted to let him up. From my window, I saw him pacing the sidewalk like a stray dog. He looked exactly like what he was, a freeloader who just lost his meal ticket. I told security to keep him out. He pays for 20 minutes before leaving, calling me 6 times that night. I ignored every call. It turned out Marcus's bachelor party was real, and so were the deposits Ethan had mentioned. Marcus started texting me directly about payment plans because Ethan had promised his friends a weekend they couldn't afford themselves. This man had planned to use me as a cash machine for his friends' entertainment. When I refused, I suddenly became the unhinged ex who couldn't handle a joke. But I wasn't finished with Ethan yet. Not by a long shot. He thought he could humiliate me in front of his friends and still expect me to bankroll his lifestyle. He was about to learn what happens when you cross someone who's done playing nice. Stay tuned for First Update. This is just the beginning. First Update. The response to my last post was wild. Some of you called me fierce. Others said I should have kicked him to the curb sooner. Honestly, you're all spot on. Big thanks to whoever said leeches reveal their true colors when the cash dries up. You hit the nail on the head. So, here's what went down after I left Ethan pacing outside my building like a lost puppy. The next morning, Friday, my phone started blowing up at 6 a.m. Not just calls. Ethan was sending me novel-length texts, desperate pleas about how he was going through a rough patch and how his friends bring out his worst side. He claimed the Vegas weekend meant the world to him and that he'd been planning a special surprise to show his gratitude. I screenshotted every message but didn't respond. Then Marcus started texting me, saying Ethan had told everyone I was just cooling off and that the bachelor party was still a go. Marcus was asking about hotel preferences and whether I wanted to upgrade their rental car to something flashier. The nerve of these grown men expecting me to fund their guy's trip after what Ethan did. I decided it was time for a real talk with Ethan. No more pathetic voicemails or text novels, but a face-to-face where he couldn't hide behind his phone. I texted him for the first time in over a week. "We need to talk. Meet me at the coffee shop on 5th Street tomorrow at 2 p.m. He replied in 30 seconds flat, "Yes, thank you. I'll be there. I love you so much." I wanted to chuck my phone across the room. Saturday came, and I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early. The moment he saw me, his face lit up like I was a savior. He rushed to my table, spewing apologies before he even sat down. How sorry he was, how drunk he'd been, how his friends were jealous of our relationship and trying to sabotage it. He kept reaching for my hands while I sat there, stone cold. "Babe, please, you have to understand. Marcus and Jake have been giving me grief for months about how you spoil me. They made me feel like less a man. I was just trying to prove something dumb, and it came out wrong. I let him ramble for a solid 10 minutes. He talked about proposing soon, meeting his parents, even looking at rings online. Rings. This guy thought a few sweet words would erase the fact that he called me desperate, and an ATM in front of his friends while they recorded it. Finally, I cut him off. You done? I just need you to know everything I said was garbage. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. I don't deserve you, but I'm going to spend every day making this right. You're right. You don't deserve me, and you're not making anything right. The panic on his face was priceless. What do you mean? I mean, we're done, Ethan. Done for good. Instead of taking it like a rational person, he lost it. His voice got louder, and people started staring. He began listing everything he'd ever done for me, which was laughably short. Apparently, driving me to the airport once and helping me carry a dresser upstairs was supposed to offset $3,000 in public humiliation. You can't just throw away months over one stupid joke. I was drunk. It wasn't a joke, Ethan. Jokes are funny. What you did showed everyone exactly what you think of me. He backpedaled hard, blaming the pressure from his friends, their constant comments about our relationship, how he felt emasculated. Actually used that word, like his fragile ego was my problem. Then he said something that made my blood boil. Look, Sarah used to make me feel awful about money too. She flaunted her family's wealth, making me feel small. When I met you, I thought you got that I needed to feel like the man in this relationship. Sarah, his precious ex, the one he'd been creeping on Instagram and comparing me for months, was now the villain in his story. And I was supposed to be grateful he let me spend my money on him. So, you humiliated me in front of your friends to feel like a man? That's your fix. I wasn't trying to humiliate you. I don't know. I was drunk and stupid. You were showing off. You wanted your friends to think you had me under your thumb, that you could treat me like trash and I'd still pay for your fun. That hit home because he went silent, dead silent, for nearly a minute. Then he switched to the wounded puppy act. Fine, you're right. I messed up, but people make mistakes, and people who love each other work through them. If you really cared about me, you'd give me a chance to fix this. If you really cared about me, you wouldn't have done it in the first place. So that's it? Months down the drain because I said some dumb stuff when I was drunk. No, Ethan. Months down the drain because you've been using me for months, and I finally saw your true colors. He got aggressive then, his voice rising, his arguments turning nastier. He called me stuck-up, accused me of using money to control people, claimed I never really loved him and was just by his affection. The sheer audacity of this man flipping the script to make me the bad guy. You know what? Maybe my friends were right about you. Maybe you are desperate. Maybe you do use money to manipulate people because you can't get them to stay otherwise. The coffee shop went silent. Everyone was staring. I stood, grabbed my purse, and looked down at him. You want to know what's desperate, Ethan? Begging someone you just insulted to keep bankrolling your lifestyle. That's desperate. I started to walk away, but he grabbed my arm. What about Marcus's bachelor party? We made commitments. People are counting on this. There was the real reason for this whole show. Not love, not regret, but my credit card for one more weekend. That's a you problem. You can't leave me hanging like this. I told everyone it was handled. Then you better figure out how to handle it yourself. I walked out of that coffee shop feeling like royalty, but Ethan didn't get the memo. Sunday night. He showed up at my apartment again, this time with Marcus and Jake in tow, all of them looking like they'd been drinking. My doorman called to ask if I wanted to see them. I said no way. They didn't leave, lingering outside my building for 2 hours. I could see them from my window, taking turns calling me and pacing like lost dogs. Neighbors were gawking. It was mortifying. Finally, my doorman came up to say other residents were complaining and asked if I wanted him to call the cops. I told him to give them one warning to leave, and if they didn't, to make the call. That got them moving. Monday morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and a dozen texts from all three. Ethan was still playing the sorry card, but Marcus and Jake took a different tack. Marcus tried to guilt me, saying Ethan was in a rough spot, and I should be more understanding. Jake was blunter, telling me I was being dramatic. That guy say dumb things when drunk, and I needed to move on. But what really infuriated me was learning through a mutual friend that these guys were telling people I was a crazy one, overreacting to a harmless joke and holding the bachelor party hostage out of spite. They were painting me as a villain, some unhinged ex ruining everyone's fun. I'm about to show these guys what spite really looks like. Stay tuned, Reddit. This is about to get wild. Second update. You guys, this situation has spiraled in ways I never could have predicted. I'm shaking as I write this. So, after leaving Ethan and his friends outside my building until security threatened to call the cops, I thought that was a low point. I was wrong. Tuesday evening, I was finally starting to feel normal again. I'd been ignoring their relentless calls and texts since Monday, hoping they'd get the hint that I wasn't budging on the bachelor party funding. I decided to treat myself to a nice dinner. Pasta, wine, loud music while I cooked being back in my apartment, doing routine tasks. Felt freeing as I tried to move past this mess. While stirring sauce in the kitchen, a noise from the living room caught my attention. I thought it was neighbors, but then I heard furniture shifting. I muted the music and listened. Silence. Turning around, I nearly screamed. Brent was rifling through my stuff. I demanded to know how he got in. My door was locked, deadbolt on. He casually said he used a fire escape window, like breaking in was normal. Terrified, I realized he climbed my building while I cooked. The violation was overwhelming. I told him to leave, but he refused until I told the truth. He'd searched my dresser, closet, and bathroom, hunting for signs of another man, convinced I'd cheated because I ended things. I explained I left him for his humiliation and financial manipulation. He didn't buy it, insisting only another man would make me turn cold. I called him delusional and demanded he leave. He got aggressive, saying he wouldn't go until I confessed and apologized for bad-mouthing him. He threatened that my laptop or TV might accidentally break if I force him out. Realizing the danger, I slipped into the bathroom and texted my brother Logan. *emergency. Brent broke in through window, threatening me. Come now. *Logan, 20 minutes away, arrived in 15, banging on my door. Seeing my face, he asked where Brent was. Brent, still in the living room, acted casual, greeting Logan like a friend. Logan asked how he got in. Brent dodged, saying we were talking. Logan pressed, knowing I kept the door locked post-breakup. Brent admitted to the fire escape, claiming he just needed to talk. Logan's face darkened, calling it breaking and entering, ordering Brent out. Brent argued it was our business, but Logan said there was no relationship. I'd ended it, and Brent had committed a crime. Brent claimed he had rights from paying rent. Logan countered his name wasn't on the lease. Unable to argue, Brent was physically escorted out by Logan, who warned he'd call police for trespassing and harassment if Brent returned. Brent argued from the hallway, but Logan shut him down. I thought it was over. I was wrong. Thursday, my coworker Jill showed me a TikTok on Simon's account, titled, "When Good Men Are Ruined by Ungrateful Women." It used my photos to paint me as a cheating gold digger who used Brent, a devoted boyfriend, and left him for someone richer. None of it was true, but with dramatic music and text, it looked convincing. With 5,000 plus views, comments called me a gold digger, fueling misogyny. Some suggested making it a YouTube compilation. Panicked it had spread to my job or family. I shook uncontrollably. Jill got me water as I nearly fainted. Done. I found Simon's parents' address online. Friday, I drove to their suburban home and showed Mrs. Anderson the TikTok, explaining Simon used my photos without consent after I refused to fund a bachelor party. She paled, FaceTiming Simon. Seeing me, he panicked. She demanded answers. Simon claimed I ruined the party, but she focused on the unauthorized photos. His dad, furious, ordered Simon to delete it and have friends remove any others, threatening to cut him off. Within an hour, the TikTok was gone, and Simon texted an apology. But I feared escalation. They'd already broken in and slandered me. I documented everything for the police. Final update. I'm still processing, but it's over. Thanks for the support. I tried pressing charges for break-in, but with no cameras on a fire escape, police said it was my word against Brent's. They documented it, though. Things were quiet for 10 days. No TikToks, no break-ins. Then at the mall with Yasmin, I saw Brent flirting with a woman, Samantha, Ricky's girlfriend. Shocked, I recorded them kissing and holding hands. Brent, who accused me of cheating, was the cheater. Samantha's recent Instagram post with Ricky confirmed they were still together. Debating what to do, Brent called to gloat about my failed police report, bragging he'd found someone better. Laughing, I told him he'd see what he deserved at midnight. I sent the video to Ricky. Asterisk, thought you should know. Sorry. Asterisk chaos ensued. 40 missed calls, 35 texts. Ricky confronted Brent, who raged at me for ruining his life. Samantha confessed to a month-long affair, starting before my breakup with Brent. He'd cheated while I funded his birthday, projecting his guilt onto me. Their friend group imploded. Ricky left Samantha, cut off Brent. Friday, Brent called, asking if I was happy. I said I just showed the truth. He admitted kissing Samantha before our Vegas trip. I told him honesty could have avoided this. I blocked him. A week later, Samantha's moved out, and I'm finally free, happier than in months. Reddit, you're amazing.